Have you ever been watching a game and been so invested in one team that you almost can't watch the game? Have you ever sat there watching your team pull ahead and thought that maybe this time things would be different, that this time victory would finally be theirs, and by extension, yours? Have you ever sat there and watched as the victory that seemed so sure a moment ago began to slip away? Have you ever watched as your team went from leading to tied to trailing, and all you can think is, this is not how this is supposed to go? And that sick feeling in your stomach that this is going to be bad starts to build and build until all you can think about is how much you don't want to watch this, but yet you just can't turn away. Have you ever held out hope, even a fool's hope, that your team would turn it around, that they would do the miraculous? Have you ever counted point differentials while you begged the clock to slow down, because just maybe your team could snatch victory from the jaws of defeat? Have you ever sat there when your team lost and felt utterly hopeless? Have you ever looked at the zeros on the clock and the deficit on the scoreboard and felt like you have been punched in the gut because no matter what happens, you are wrong to hope, wrong to dream, wrong to look for victory? Have you ever felt the pain of losing when you thought for sure that this time you were going to win? If so, then take that feeling and multiply it by 1,000 and stand next to John at the foot of the cross. Stand there and watch as the one that you were sure would save the world is arrested. Stand there and watch as the one you were sure would lead the people of Israel to freedom is nailed to a cross. Stand there with John and hope for something beyond possible. Hope for the miracle that maybe, just maybe, he would listen to the mockers and save himself like he saved others. Stand there and listen to his ragged breath as you hold out hope that somehow he will survive this and lead his people to victory and freedom. Stand there and watch the blood collect in pools around the cross and count the time that he has left before the end. Take that feeling of loss, that feeling like nothing's ever going to be right again, and multiply it by like 1,000,000 as you stand there and watch Jesus, this one you called Messiah, the one who healed the sick, raised the dead, and entered the city to shouts of Hosanna, dies right before your eyes. Stand there and hold out hope that maybe he isn't really dead until you see his side pierced and the blood and water pour out from the wound. Stand there and try to figure out how you could have gotten all of this so very, very wrong. When we look at this day through the lens of resurrection, we can call it good, and we can rejoice for the Savior has come and chosen to die for us. We can meet here on Good Friday and smile because we know what this cross means. We know that Sunday's coming. But we must not move too quickly past the cross. We must not look past the pain in order to see the victory. We must not ignore the violence in order to see the empty tomb. Let us linger for a while on the pain and on those feelings of failure, on that deep pain that comes from losing, from choosing wrong, that pain that comes from being sure that God is going to come through for you and then discovering that he doesn't. Good Friday reminds us that we live in a world of pain. There's hope because we know that Sunday's coming, but there's pain and loss and regret and tears. That is where we live, and that's what this world is. We don't want to move too quickly past this day because it is this day, this horrible, horrible day, that allows us to say with confidence that this world is not our home. It is this day that allows us to say that even though it looks like we are defeated, we know that God is won. It is this day that we can call good, because on this day, the God of the universe sent his Son to die on a cross to pay a debt that we could never pay. On this day, Jesus Christ took on himself the penalty for our sins, and we can rejoice and call this day good. So come, look, remember, and open up your heart as we worship together. Please stand and sing with me. Church, you may be seated.
It was a different kind of Passover meal, to say the least. I remember right when I sat down, Philip leaned over to me and he whispered, "Hey, Thomas, I feel like something special is going to happen tonight." I looked at him and said, "I doubt it." I was wrong. Jesus got up from the table. He walked over, grabbed a basin of water and a towel. I remember at the time thinking to myself, what's Jesus doing with foot water? I doubt he's going to wash somebody's feet. I was wrong. He knelt down and began to wash Bartholomew's feet. Bart just sat there, didn't say anything. He didn't move. None of us did. Jesus finished and went on to James and Andrew and the rest of us. I remember at the time thinking, this is so strange and yet so wonderful. I doubt anyone is going to say anything right now. I was wrong. You know who broke the silence? Peter.
No way are you going to wash our feet. That's what I told him. He could wash other people's feet, but he wasn't going to wash mine. So I looked at him and I said, Jesus, you're not going to wash my feet. I mean, you're a king. And then he looked at me and said, well, then you can't have anything to do with me. And I'm like, ouch. Okay, wash my feet, wash my hands, wash my whole body if you have to. He just looked at me and said, no, your feet will be just fine, Peter. In the midst of washing our feet, he teaches us servanthood.
Then Jesus took some bread and some wine. He blessed it and served it to us. He said it was a new covenant with his blood. And he said, tonight, all of you will lose faith in me. I remember thinking right then, lose faith in you? Never. But I didn't say anything. I just sat there.
I couldn't just sit there. I had to say something. So I looked at him and I said, Jesus, I love you. You can count on me. Everybody else may fall away, but I will not. You can count on me. He looked at me and he smiled and said, Peter, you'll deny me 3 times before tomorrow morning. Ouch. Next thing I knew, we were wrapping things up and heading to the garden to pray.
It was just before Passover. Jesus knew the hour had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end.
The evening meal was in progress, and the devil had already prompted Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with a towel that was wrapped around him.
He came to Simon Peter, who said to him,
Lord, are you going to wash my feet?
Jesus replied, You do not realize now what I am doing, but later you will understand.
No, said Peter, you shall never wash my feet.
Jesus answered, Unless I wash you, you have no part with me.
Then, Lord, Simon Peter replied, not just my feet, but my hands and my head as well.
Jesus answered, Those who have had a bath need only to wash their feet. Their whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you. For he knew who was going to betray him, and that was why he said, Not everyone was clean.
When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I've done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now, I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet. You also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly, I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them.
On the first day of the festival of unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked,
Where do you want us to make preparations for you to eat the Passover?
He replied, Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, the teacher says, my appointed time is near. I'm going to celebrate the Passover with my disciples at your house. So the disciples did as Jesus had directed and prepared the Passover. When evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with the 12. And while they were eating, he said, Truly, I tell you, one of you will betray me. They were very sad and began to say to him one after another,
Surely you don't mean me, Lord.
Jesus replied, The one who has dipped his hand into the bowl with me will betray me. The Son of Man will go just as it is written about him. But woe to that man who betrays the Son of Man. It would be better for him if he had not been born. Then Judas, the one who would betray him, said,
Surely you don't mean me, Rabbi.
Jesus said, You have said so.
While they were eating, Jesus took bread, and when they had given thanks, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, saying, Take and eat, this is my body. Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink from this cup of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it with you in my Father's kingdom. When they had sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives.
Please stand and sing with me. I hear the Savior say, Thy strength indeed is small. Child of weakness, watch and pray. Find in me thine all in all. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. For nothing good have I, whereby thy grace to claim. I will wash my garments white in the blood of Calvary's Lamb. Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. And when before the throne I stand in him complete, Jesus died my soul to save. My lips shall still repeat, Jesus paid it all to him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, he washed it white as snow. Church, you may be seated.
Just got crazy. Jesus asked Peter, James and myself to go a little further in the garden with him and pray, and we did. We tried. We kept falling asleep. Jesus kept waking us up, and I remember one time he said, "The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." That's true. It's all a blur. And to think this whole mess got started because of Judas. Did he really think what he was doing was right?
There he is. He's the one you want, the one praying by himself. Now the others, they will try to come up and create some scene, but the one that I kiss on the cheek, that's the one you want. Now, 30 pieces of silver for this, right? That's what we agreed upon? 30 pieces? Now, forget about the rest. The one that I kiss on the cheek, that's the one you want.
A kiss? Judas betrayed Jesus with a kiss of a friend. Then it got crazy. Peter grabs a sword and he cuts off this guy's ear, and Jesus, he just reached down and picked up the ear and put it right back on the guy's head, as if nothing had happened. And then they took him. I would love to tell you that we fought for him, but we didn't. Everyone ran. I ran. I'm so ashamed.
What have I done? What have I done? Was I so stupid to think I've killed him? I've killed him. I've crucified Jesus.
Then Jesus told them, "This very night you will all fall away on account of me, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I have risen, I will go ahead of you into Galilee." Peter replied,
Even if all fall away on account of you, I never will.
Truly I tell you, Jesus answered, this very night, before the rooster crows, you will disown me 3 times. But Peter declared,
Even if I have to die with you, I will never disown you.
and all the disciples said the same. Then Jesus went with his disciples to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to them, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee along with him, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he said to them, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me."
Going a little farther, he fell with his face to the ground and prayed, "My Father, if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me, yet not as I will, but as you will."
Then he returned to his disciples and found them sleeping. "Couldn't you men keep watch with me for 1 hour?" he asked Peter. "Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak."
He went away a second time and prayed, "My Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away unless I drink it, may your will be done."
When he came back, he again found them sleeping because their eyes were heavy. So he left them and went away once more and prayed the 3rd time, saying the same thing.
Then he returned to the disciples and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and resting? Look, the hour has come, and the Son of Man is delivered into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here come my betrayers."
While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said,
Greetings, Rabbi, and kissed him.
Jesus replied, Do what you came for, friend.
Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached forward for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear.
Put your sword back in its place, Jesus said to him, for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?
In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me, but this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all of the disciples deserted him and fled.
Please stand and sing with me. Peace to the earth that you breathed by your word as you watched the darkness come. Crushed by the weight of the cost as you prayed, not my will, but yours be done. Gethsemane, where heaven met me, Redeemer, crowned in endless praise, my Savior, name above all names, King Jesus, take the highest place. There on the hill you surrendered your will, for they know not what they do. Grief in your heart, your hands bear the scars of a love that led you to the tomb. Calvary, where heaven met me, Redeemer, crowned in endless praise, my Savior, name above all names, King Jesus, take the highest place. Redeemer, crowned in endless praise, my Savior, name above all names, King Jesus, take the highest place. Oh, the power of the cross. Oh, the power of your blood. Oh, the power of the cross. Oh, the power of your blood. Oh, the power of the cross. Oh, the power of your blood. Oh, the
I crucified Jesus. That's what the crowd wanted, and that's what they got. Personally, I don't think that man did anything to deserve that, but I was just a soldier doing my job. When the governor gave his sentence, that's when I went to work. I love that job. I felt like I was administering justice every time I nailed someone to a tree. But that man didn't deserve that.
Makes no sense. There I was, rotting in a jail cell for stealing, murdering, you name it, I had done it. I knew the next time I stepped foot outside the jail cell, that was it. So the guards came and got me, and they put me next to this guy who had been beaten to a pulp. And Governor Pilate started asking the crowd, "Which one of these men do you want me to set free?" I mean, it was obvious. The crowd is going to say, "Let Jesus go." And then I was going to tell them where they could go. And then the crowd, they started chanting, "Barabbas." I mean, they were saying my name. They were saying my name over and over again. The guards shoved me into the crowd, and they took this Jesus off to Golgotha. 1 minute, I'm a man marked for death, and then the next minute, I'm free. Made no sense. So I followed him all the way to Golgotha.
I was stationed at Golgotha that day. We had just raised the second criminal by the time they brought him to me. I'll never forget the way he looked. He had been beaten, spit on, whipped. He was unrecognizable as a man, hideous. What was left of his clothes were stripped off him, and he was thrown down on the cross. And then I went to work. Generally, when you crucify a man, the first hand is the most difficult. The criminal wants to get away, and he fights you, so I would have 2 soldiers hold him down. But this guy, he didn't put up a fight. I just thought he was exhausted. As an executioner, I've been called every name in the book. I've had men yell at me, plead with me, but I wasn't prepared for that. He looked at us, he looked at me, and he said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." He forgave me.
"Forgive them," he said. "Forgive them." Who is he? Forgive. It should have been me up there. I was the one who was supposed to be hanging on that cross. He took my place. Then I looked up, and I remember he took a deep, agonizing breath, and he said, "It is finished." Then he died.
Surely, this man was the Son of God.
Those who had arrested Jesus took him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the teachers of the law and the elders had assembled. But Peter followed him at a distance, right up to the courtyard of the high priest. He entered and sat down with the guards to see the outcome.
The chief priests and the whole Sanhedrin were looking for false evidence against Jesus so they could put him to death. But they did not find any, though many false witnesses came forward.
Finally, 2 came forward and declared,
This fellow said, I am able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days.
Then the high priest stood up and said to Jesus,
Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?
but Jesus remained silent.
The high priest said to him,
I charge you under oath by the living God. Tell us if you are the Messiah, the Son of God.
You have said so, Jesus replied. But I say to all of you, from now on, you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven.
Then the high priest tore his clothes and said,
He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?
He is worthy of death.
They answered.
Then they spit on his face and struck him with their fists. Others slapped him and said,
Prophesy to us, Messiah. Who hit you?
Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him,
Are you the King of the Jews?
You have said so, Jesus replied.
When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him,
Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?
But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor.
Now it was the governor's custom at the festival to release a prisoner chosen by the crowd. At the time, they had a well-known prisoner whose name was Jesus Barabbas. So when the crowd had gathered, Pilate asked them,
Which one do you want me to release to you? Jesus Barabbas or Jesus who is called the Messiah?
For he knew it was out of self-interest that they had handed Jesus over to him.
While Pilate was sitting on the judge's seat, his wife sent him a message.
Don't have anything to do with that innocent man, for I have suffered a great deal today in a dream because of him.
But the chief priests and the elders persuaded the crowd to ask for Barabbas and to have Jesus executed.
Which of the two do you want me to release to you?
Asked the governor.
Barabbas.
They answered.
What shall I do then with Jesus who is called the Messiah?
Pilate asked.
They all answered.
Crucify him.
Why? What crime has he committed? Asked Pilate.
But they shouted all the louder,
Crucify him.
When Pilate saw that he was getting nowhere, but that instead an uproar was starting, he took water and washed his hand in front of the crowd. I am innocent of this man's blood, he said. It is your responsibility.
All the people answered.
His blood is on us and on our children.
Then he released Barabbas to them, but he had Jesus flogged and handed him over to be crucified.
Then the governor's soldiers took Jesus into the praetorium and gathered the whole company of soldiers around him. They stripped him and put a scarlet robe on him, and then twisted together a crown of thorns and set it on his head. They put a staff in his right hand. Then they knelt in front of him and mocked him.
Hail, King of the Jews.
They said, they spit on him. They took the staff and struck him on the head again and again. After they had mocked him, they took off the robe and put his own clothes on him. Then they led him away to crucify him.
Please stand and sing with me. Savior, I come, quiet my soul. Redemption's here where your blood was spilled for my ransom. Everything I once held dear Church, you may be seated.
My son, why are they doing this to him? This can't be the way it's supposed to happen. The angel said he would reign over the house of Jacob forever. His kingdom would never end. But he was sentenced to die.
I watched as they beat him. They hammered that crown of thorns on his head and ripped open his body with whips. I couldn't watch. Mary and I went between, staring, transfixed at the horror, and holding each other, weeping. It was too much.
We got cloths to mop up his blood. We couldn't leave it there. It was pooled on the stones. How can he still stand? My son, my son.
They put a robe on him and started mocking him, calling him King of the Jews. If only they knew. If only they had seen the miracles he has done. They would be making him king over all of us. But no, we watched as he was led to be crucified, and as he was mocked by the crowds that only a few days ago had praised him.
As they were going out, they met a man from Cyrene named Simon, and they forced him to carry the cross. They came to a place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. There they offered Jesus wine to drink, mixed with gall, but after tasting it, he refused to drink it. When they had crucified him, they divided up his clothes by casting lots. And sitting down, they just kept watch over there. Above his head, they placed the written charge against him. This is Jesus, the King of the Jews.
2 rebels were crucified with him, one on his right and one on his left. Those who passed by hurled insults at him, shaking their heads, saying,
You who are going to destroy the temple and build it in 3 days, save yourself. Come down from the cross if you are the Son of God.
In the same way, the chief priests, the teachers of the law, and the elders mocked him.
He saved others, they said, but he can't save himself. He's the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God rescue him now if he wants him. For he said, I am the Son of God.
In the same way, the rebels who were crucified with him also heaped insults on him.
From noon until 3 in the afternoon, darkness came over the land. About 3 in the afternoon, Jesus cried out in a loud voice, Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani, which means, my God, why have you forsaken me?
When some of those standing there heard this, they said,
He's calling Elijah.
Immediately, one of them ran to get a sponge. He filled it with wine vinegar, put it on a staff, and offered it to Jesus to drink. The rest said,
Now leave him alone. Let's see if Elijah comes to save him.
And when Jesus had cried out again in a loud voice, he gave up his spirit.
At that moment, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook, the rocks split, and the tombs broke open. The bodies of many holy people who had died were raised to life. They came out of the tombs after Jesus' resurrection and went into the holy city and appeared to many people.
When the centurion and those who were guarding Jesus saw the earthquake and all that had happened, they were terrified and exclaimed,
Surely he was the Son of God.
Many women were there, watching from a distance. They had followed Jesus from Galilee to care for his needs. Among them were Mary Magdalene, Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of Zebedee's sons.
As the evening approached, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who himself had become a disciple of Jesus. Going to Pilate, he asked for Jesus' body, and Pilate had ordered that it be given to him. Joseph took the body, wrapped it in a clean linen cloth, and placed it in his own new tomb that he had cut out of the rock. He rolled a big stone in front of the entrance to the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were sitting there opposite the tomb.
The next day, the one after preparation day, the chief priests and the Pharisees went to Pilate.
Sir, they said, we remember that while he was still alive, that deceiver said, after 3 days I will rise again.
So, give the order for the tomb to be made secure until the 3rd day. Otherwise, his disciples may come and steal the body and tell the people that he is raised from the dead. This last deception will be worse than the first.
Take a guard, Pilate answered. Go make the tomb as secure as you know how.
So they went and made the tomb secure by putting a seal on the stone and posting the guard.
Please stand and sing with me. When I survey the wondrous cross on which the Prince of Church, you may be seated. It is finished.